What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. Joining me, Lazy Douzable and B-Mac. No Brady Quinn. We got Bryant McFadden, two-time Super Bowl champion. I always hate, I realize you actually are a two-time Super Bowl champion, B-Mac, and that's pretty awesome. But it's always like very when like you and I are on HQ together, like they'll be like, our two-time Super Bowl champion, Bryant McFadden, and Will Brinson. And I'm like,
the introduction is disrespectful.
And they're like, and the short guy with the big hair. What's up, man? How you doing? Been a while.
Man, I'm doing good, man. I'm fired up. You know, I'm happy for the invite. So hopefully
of course.
I keep up the entertainment that you guys have already established.
If you don't already, you should B-Mac, a podcaster in his own right, of course.
Oh yeah.
What's going on over on those streets, man?
Man, you know, of course, all things covered. First and foremost, you got to talk about Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, it's been an ugly 5-3 season, but they're 5-3. Think about it.
I don't know how.
We don't. I don't know either.
I don't think anybody can determine how that's happened.
Yeah. So they're 5-3. Big game this week against the Green Bay Packers. So we see if they can continue these ugly wins. A win is a win, though. I can care less if they're ugly or pretty, as long as you find a way to win.
I've said this a bunch, but my favorite thing, and I'm mad that they moved Matt Canada down to the sidelines, because my favorite thing about the Steelers games on TV is when it's like they cut to Matt Canada during a drive, and like there'll be a pass down the field. It's like Kenny Pickett kind of ad-libs and chunks one down to George Pickens, and like Matt Canada doesn't know whether to celebrate or not because he's like waiting for a flag to come out. He looks like he's like, I don't really know what the hell that play was. It's not part of my offense, but I'm pretty happy that it's successful because that's good news for me.
Yeah, and also too, I like coordinators that show some type of emotions. Like, it's okay to smile. It's okay to clap your hand. It's okay to rah. You know what I mean? You don't have to just look like you're just a body out there for 4 quarters. Like, show some emotion. So hopefully Canada be on the sideline. Hopefully improves the play calling, improves the production. And also, too, get involved in the game, Canada. Show some emotions, man. High five your guys up. Dap them up, man. Show some energy. Some juice.
Yeah. The ebbs and flows of Matt Canada are hilarious. We talked about Will when they had him upstairs and that camera pans to him. You'll see one of these with his head in his hand, and then you'll see another one. He'll give you one of these quick fist pumps, and then he locks back in because he knows the camera's looking at him. So like the ebbs and flows of him are hilarious. I'm interested to see it going forward, him on the sideline, like you talked about, B-Mac. Will we see some more emotion from him now that he's around the juice on the field with the players?
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully.
Speaking of on the field, Aaron Rodgers was back on the field on Monday night, tossing the ball around.
Will, before we get into that, you had an interesting story for me and B-Mac. It's a change up to see you back at home because you've been at your parents' house the last few weeks when we've done this show. But you had a real interesting story. You said your parents are coming back from Indonesia, scuba diving, and you were the only brother not to go. So what's up with that?
Yeah, so
the black sheep of the family.
It is work related.
Okay.
So like I got the invite. Now, and this trip was actually planned pre-pandemic, I believe, and they had to kick it back. So like they had planned to go in like 2019 or even 2020, I guess. And 2020 obviously. And then just like the timing and the planning of it, they didn't want to like try and make it happen in 2020, like 2021 or 2022, because they want to make sure like because you're traveling that far. Like they took 2 10-hour flights.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
wow.
10 hour. They went to
first. Was it Dubai?
Qatar, I think.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's a nice airport. I don't know if you guys have been there.
No, they sent me pictures. It looks incredible.
Yeah, me and the wife went there on our honeymoon. We had to stop there on the way back from Maldives when we were going to Cairo.
Ooh, and
nice. Qatar, man, you think Dubai airport's nice? I don't know if you guys have been there, but Qatar, and they really fixed that city up because they had the World Cup not too long ago. But like that airport is second to none for sure.
They said they were in some lounge and it was like it looked like this like modern. It was like a jungle inside of it, and like all kinds of like. They said they had like incredible food. My brother was like doing like a taste around the world. I don't know. So they're like, how's the farm? I'm like, it's great. But yeah, I mean, like I think it would be a tough. So they did a week. You have to. It's like 2 days to acclimate to like the quick time change, and then they did a week on a liveaboard with no like connection to the outside. Like you can't couldn't even text, no Wi-Fi, no nothing.
Really?
Yeah. And they go out on the boat, they got on this boat, and they stay on that boat for the week. And then they came back and did a week diving around in the dive resort area.
That's dope.
And yeah, so like, it's just not really conducive for somebody who has to talk about football every day for to leave for 3 weeks. 3 weeks, like a week during the season would.
That's tough during the season.
Even a day during the season.
No question. No, so you can't watch football. You can't hear football. You can't. Oh no.
Nah. They're like no. Like I was like my dad was like he's like I was like, look, dude, you guys let me stay here. I enjoy it. Yeah, it's like the house I grew up in. It's fun to hang out there. Big farm in High Point. You know, it's very enjoyable being there. And I was like, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna drink your wine, and I will set your fantasy lineups for you. Nice. Bob's 3-1. Bob's 3-1 since he's been gone. So and I grabbed Aaron Jones off the waiver wire in his work league. I probably shouldn't say that because then he's gonna be accused of like collusion with me or something like that. But that was a pretty good pickup. At any rate, yeah. And so they got a puppy coming from Scotland too, because why not have those two things colliding?
What kind of puppy?
A black Scottish lab, I think.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if there's a difference between the labs from Scotland or not, but they've always had black labs. The farm is called Black Dog Farm. We had like 2 litters of 11 puppies, 11 black lab puppies when I was a kid. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah. Anyway, enough about me and my bio. We had cows too. I raised cows. Aaron Rodgers. That's Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was back on the field on Monday night before the Jets-Chargers game. Not a very fun game, especially if you're a Jets guy, boy. And the Jets, he was seen throwing like a 58-yard pass, kind of moving around decently, and he was doing some chatting. I think we got some video of Aaron Rodgers discussing how quickly he might be back. When are you coming back, man? So he said a couple of weeks when he was talking to Derwin James there, and Rodgers later clarified this remark on the Pat McAfee show and said he was really kidding. And I think what he means, Deuce, is that I didn't realize people were listening, so I was joking.
And that's a rookie move by Aaron Rodgers, right? B-Mac, he knows the cameras are always rolling, especially after a game. Literally, if you've been to a game, you'll see it once the clock hits 0-0. And even before that, right, depending on if a team takes a knee and the clock is going to run out, you'll see an abundance of reporters running on the field to try to do interviews. So there's microphones and cameras everywhere. So I just think Aaron Rodgers didn't realize there was a reporter that close to him when he said that. But he has to know he's Aaron Rodgers. They're going to follow him around. They want to see how he's walking. Brinson, you talked about it pregame. Out there throwing 50, 55-yard passes, even taking some drop steps, which, again, is astronomical 2 months after an Achilles tear when you're 40 years old. Like, it's ridiculous. Now, the question is, will Aaron Rodgers be back? I mean, there's so much that goes into this, right? Because, for him to come back, the Jets need to be in contention, which they are right now. They're still in the playoff hunt. Crushing loss to the Chargers at home on Monday Night Football, but they're still in the thick of things, right? And if you look at this, right, let's go back to when Cam Akers did this before the Rams won the Super Bowl. He did it in July in the offseason, B-Mac, right? Younger guy, physically probably a little bit more gifted at this time in his career than Aaron Rodgers was. You would assume he can heal a lot faster. He came back the last week of the season. I believe it was week 18, right? And then helped them throughout the playoffs. Well, you look at Aaron Rodgers, it was mid-September when this happened. I believe he got his surgery, if I'm not mistaken, maybe the first week of October. So even if we're putting it on that same timeline, that would mean Aaron Rodgers wouldn't come back till probably the second week of the playoffs, right? So what he's done in 2 months is ridiculous, right? And he's not Cam Akers, right? He doesn't have to jump cut, right? He doesn't have to get in and out of, cuts like Cam Akers would have to do, or he doesn't have to be able to block somebody and pass pro like Cam Akers has to do. But he talked about it, like you said, Will, on the Pat McAfee show. Like he was kidding about the few weeks. He's got to be able to protect himself. That was his main thing when he said it on the Pat McAfee show. I got to be able to protect myself, right? There's some milestones that he still has to pass. And the biggest question, B-Mac and Will Brinson, is the O-line protection. Remember, that was an issue during training camp. Aaron Rodgers said, I'm going to have patience for as long as I can have patience. But at the end of the day, I need to know the starting five that's going to be up there with me, because everybody needs to be on one string together. They need to know the calls, because Aaron Rodgers has so much freedom at the line of scrimmage to check plays. So everybody has to be on one accord. Well, the offensive line has been in flux, guys. We saw Billy Turner,
That's a nice way of saying it.
Woodshed on Monday night. So Zach Wilson is very mobile, and if he couldn't get out of that, Aaron Rodgers coming off an Achilles won't be able to get off of that. So there's so much to dive into when it comes to this. I think first and foremost, right, the Jets have to be in contention, right? And then also, we see that Billy Turner has a broken hand. Also, there's milestones that Aaron Rodgers has to pass, and then he has to be comfortable behind that offensive line.
I think with Aaron Rodgers, he's loving this. In regards to what he said to Duro and James, Leger, I think he knew the camera was there.
Ooh.
Because my thing is this. If you're Aaron Rodgers, you got to know you've been on the sideline for a few Jets home games. So you know the camera is always following you. They're treating Aaron Rodgers like the NFL is treating Taylor Swift. But he's on the field. He's not up top. He's on the field. He was up top the first game he attended. Now he's been on the field. So every time there's an opportunity to put the camera or the microphone around Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be there. So at the end of the game, the cameraman was literally within 5 yards of Aaron Rodgers. So I highly doubt Aaron Rodgers didn't see the cameraman to his left. That's the first thing. I do believe he was joking when he said a few weeks, but that was a joke to kind of spark some type of headlines because clearly he knew that was going to get out to some degree, right? Of course, he clarified what he meant on the Pat McAfee show, but I think he knew what he was doing. And then also, too, when you factor in every time we see him, he's throwing the football. He's trying to show us, you know what? Oh, boy, he's giving us something to talk about. Man, Aaron Rodgers is getting closer. Is he going to return? Headlines. So for Aaron Rodgers, I'm not saying that he's seeking attention, but I think he understands. He kind of likes it because he likes it because if you didn't really want to be a headline, why are you throwing the ball 50 yards during pregame? You're not playing. You're not playing at all. There's nothing for you to get ready for. That play 60 arm does not need to be warmed up right now because you're not going to be activated no time soon. So you're only doing that to do what? Give us something to talk about and to applaud the how fast you've been healing and to talk about it. And then also to talk about, will he come back? And then lastly, if he's able to come back, I wouldn't put him in that fire. No, I wouldn't put Rodgers out there. Because my thing, Leger.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Leger talked about how bad the offensive line. It's not going to get better. You can't change the offensive line. The personnel is the personnel. You're dealing with injuries. Heck, Billy just did what? He broke his hand?
He broke his hand, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. They just put him in the lineup. Now he's hurt. So even if you're mathematically speaking still in the playoff hunt mid to late December, do you want to salvage 2024 potentially? Because if you put Aaron Rodgers behind that line, he's going to have to move. He's going to have to run to avoid pressure. And I don't know if that would be the smartest thing.
Well, this is the one thing.
By the way, I was just going to say, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to best explain this because I was on the Darren Smith show with my buddy Darren Smith out in San Diego doing San Diego radio, and he's like sources close to the show have told us that Rodgers wants to come back in a couple of weeks, and and
yeah,
I can't. But I've texted with Darren about it. He told me how he found out. And I can't really get into the weeds on the specific. I don't want to blow up Darren's spot by pointing it out, but
yeah, we got you.
But it's legit. It's a legit sort of surprising way to figure it out. And I think it's interesting to note that Rodgers, that the Jets are playing on December 3rd against the Falcons at home. It's after they get they have the Raiders, the Bills, and the Dolphins, and then they have the Falcons at home. His birthday is December 2nd. And
birthday gift.
I just sort of want. Couldn't you see Rodgers being he'll turn 40 on December 2nd?
Yeah,
and he's doing all of the. So I think you could make the case that maybe he's doing this to try and motivate the team. All right, keep going out there and fighting. Stay checked in. I'm going to try to get back if I can. I think he likes the attention. He loves it. Dude, he doesn't have to do. He gets paid handsomely apparently to do the McAfee show. But he hasn't. Aaron Rodgers hasn't done anything to go out of his way to avoid attention in the last 5 years, at all. Right, the darkness retreat, all this stuff. He likes the attention, and that's fine. He's a famous quarterback, one of the most famous football players in the league. But I think that I just sort of wonder. To me, I'm with you, B-Back, and I'm curious what you think. I mean, like, again, like, do you want to bring him back? Like, what does the Jets record need to be for him to viably come back in December? So again, you're 4-4. You're at the Raiders, and not a great time to get the Raiders. You wish you got them 2 weeks ago. At the Bills, at the Bills, the Dolphins at home, Falcons and Texans at home, and then you close with like at Dolphins, Commanders at home, at Browns, at Patriots. Like you could win. Aaron Rodgers could win all 4 of those final games if you got to that spot.
And that was the biggest thing, even in the beginning of the season when they had that 6 game gauntlet. People were saying, Jet fans would have taken 3-3 with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, right? Because who did they have? They had Jalen Hurts, they had Josh Allen, they had Patrick Mahomes, and they had Dak Prescott in the first 6 weeks. So them going 3-3 without Rodgers, that was icing on the cake. So, to your point, Will, Aaron Rodgers being so viably ready for the media and speaking on the Pat McAfee show, I think there is a little bit of gamesmanship there, letting the team know, like, continue to fight, guys. I'm going to do my best to come back, especially if we're in the hunt right now. Before that Chargers game, a lot of people were saying, shoot, the Jets might compete for the AFC East, right? Because if you think about it, if they won that game, everybody else in the AFC East had lost on that previous Sunday. So they would have gained a game on everybody else, right? They would have gained a game on the Bills. They would have been a half game out of first place behind the Miami Dolphins. So everything they needed to happen happened, and they just did not show up on Monday night.
And they could have won that game too. Like,
oh my God. I mean, the defense gave up, I believe, less than 200 yards. Like
191 yards.
Justin Herbert, he was 16 to 30 for 136. If you told me before this game that Justin Herbert was going to go 16 for 30 for 136, I would have told you it was a blowout. The Jets probably won by at least 10, if that's the case.
Also, too, what the Charger game showed all of us just how bad the Jets offense can be.
Yeah, that's a whole other discussion.
Because it wasn't like the Jets defensively was a dominant unit. They had that one game against the Raiders where Khalil Mack had 6 sacks. But since then, other than that, it wasn't like it was a dominant unit. So I was overly surprised to see how well the Chargers played against the Jets and the pressure they put on Zach Wilson. So we know what we're going to get from the Jets defense. The issue offensively is that you don't know what you're going to get. You just hope that you can get something that's serviceable. That's where they are right now. They're hoping.
To your point, Mac, that was the question, right? Going into the game, it wasn't that the Chargers defense, were stalwarts, right? They were the worst pass defense in football. They gave up nearly 300 pass yards.
297 to be exact.
Exactly.
So
and the next closest team, I believe, was like 263. So that's how bad they've been against the pass. So that's why a lot of people, I think, picked the Jets because they're like, this is a bad pass defense. If there's a game for Zach Wilson to get right, this is the game. But of course, if you can't protect and your quarterback's missing easy throws, it doesn't matter. This is the NFL. You get beat by anybody.
Well, and I think that's sort of like the Rodgers thing too plays into it. Like, remember last year, the defense kind of checked out after it was like, holy crap. Like, I mean, they were fighting, but it was like, they didn't check out. They started to throw barbs at Zach Wilson, like publicly. I mean, like Saucy, he's a rookie and he's like, I mean, this clown. and so I was sort of wondering if that Rodgers, so part of the Rodgers sort of public putting it out there and letting it leaking it out there is like in a way to make sure that there's no infighting with the defense and like that the defense knows they're stuck with Zach Wilson for better or for worse. They didn't make any changes. Like they had the opportunities to. Anyway, from one injured quarterback to another one who is going to come back, we think this week. Kind of surprising. The Cardinals are 1-7. BMAC, and they're bringing Kyler Murray back despite that record, despite a laser lock track on the number 1 overall pick to try to go get Caleb Williams or Drake May, depending on who you like. They are going to bring back Kyler Murray and start him over Clayton Tune. I think surprising to some people.
It is surprising, but it makes sense. You know why it makes sense, guys? Because they're interviewing Kyler Murray for this job moving forward. That's all they're doing. They're interviewing. Remember, this is a new coaching staff. The staff that drafted Kyler Murray is no longer there. So they got to understand and see exactly how Kyler looks in this new offense, how he fits what they want to do currently, and also, too, how he fits in the future plans. So what they're doing is, Kyler, you're up. You're up. Let's rock and roll. The show is yours the rest of the way. So 2 things will either happen. Either Kyler flourishes in this offense or shows some bright spots for the organization to feel excited about what he could do with this offense moving forward, or Kyler doesn't perform well, and now they can start setting their eyes on the draft to go get one of these young quarterbacks. Because with or without Kyler Murray, it's safe to say the Arizona Cardinals will have a top 5 selection, in my opinion. With or without him playing this season,
they will be drafting.
Yeah, they will be drafting somewhere in the top 5, top 6 if he plays or if he don't play. But what they're going to see is, you know what? Kyler looks good. This is the guy we're going to rock with. Or I don't really know if it meshed well with us. Let's start focusing on this draft. And then, of course, someone's going to need a quarterback. That's one thing about the National Football League. There's always a need for quarterback. So the Arizona Cardinals is the ultimate job interview. This is the job interview for Kyler Murray to see if he's going to fit what they want to do, keep him, retain him, or not, because they have options. That's the unique thing about the Arizona Cardinals. They got money to play with, and they will have draft capital to play with as well.
Yeah, Will and be like, this is an interesting scenario because in the beginning of the year, I got asked this question, and I honestly thought we wouldn't see Kyler Murray, right? Because remember, he got hurt late in the season, and I'm like, why would they trot him out there? But now, B-Mac, with a team that is 1-8, like you said, and a quarterback class, and we hear this every few years, but this really could be a change of the guard type quarterback draft class coming out this year, depending on which quarterbacks decide to leave, whether it's Drake May, Caleb Williams, Shedeur Sanders, J.J. McCarthy, right? And so on and so on. This is a really deep quarterback draft class. You're in an interesting predicament, right? Because let's not forget when they drafted Kyler Murray, they drafted the guy a year before in the first round. Matter of fact, they traded up to get the guy the year before. So now you talked about a new coaching staff, B-Mac. It's not just a new coaching staff. Monty Ossenfort, he didn't pick Kyler Murray. It's a new GM in town too. Yeah. So you got to think about the Cardinals and where they feel like they need to go in the future. I like what you said. This is an interview for Kyler Murray, right? So when I originally said that I didn't think Kyler Murray would play, I thought about it after I said it, and I was like, well, if you're Kyler Murray, you actually want to get out there and prove that you could be the guy for the Cardinals, because even if they decide to move off of you, you want to be able to go to a team and show that you can still be that electric guy as a quarterback, right? You want a team to want you. You don't want to just be part of a package that gets traded away and then you end up not being there after a year, right? You want to be somebody's franchise quarterback. So it's imperative for Kyler Murray to go out there, one, to be 100% healthy before he goes out there, right, B-Mac? Because we know this. As players, when you're on the field, no matter if you are hurt or not, they're going to grade that tape as if you're 100% healthy, right?
Yep.
I thought Josh Dobbs said something amazing, and it was a Mike Tomlin-ism, right? No matter what situation you're in, right, you're expected to go out there and perform at a high level. Josh Dobbs got there 3 days ago, ends up coming in and starting halfway through the game and leads the Vikings to a win. Like, that's a scenario that most quarterbacks would not be put in, but he was put in that scenario because they traded for him. Jaron Hall goes down. He didn't even know most of his teammates, right? He didn't even know the snap count, B-Mac. They worked on the snap count on the sideline for the first time.
Hey, Leger, speaking of what Josh Dobbs said with Mike Tomlin, the way he said it to us one time is that no one cares about the labor pains. It's your job to deliver the baby.
Facts.
That's exactly how he's
care nothing about that.
Nobody don't care nothing about no labor pains that you got going on. It's your job to deliver the baby by any means necessary. That's how the NFL works. And to your point, in regards to what Josh Dobbs said, that's the legit Mike Tomlinism right there. He said, if you're Kyler Murray, that's what you got to think about, right? Got to deliver
one. I need to be out there healthy, because if I'm not healthy, they don't care what happens because I'm out there, even if it looks bad. Two, you need to go out there and put your best foot forward, because, again, even if you're not part of the Cardinals' future, right, you want another team to be willing to risk some draft capital to come and get you. So It's a unique scenario that the Cardinals have found themselves in again, right, because they did it when they decided to take Kyler Murray 1 overall after drafting the quarterback the year before. They could be in that scenario again.
And also, just for a fun little sidebar and side plot here, in July, I did a quarterback tiers list and included Kyler Murray in the 6th tier.
I remember we had this discussion with
not because Kyler stinks or Kyler can't be good, but because I didn't know if Kyler was going to play or not. And somebody tweeted it out, just the graphic, and Kyler replied and said, "I love it." So I'm fully expecting to get absolutely blistered by Old Takes Exposed if and when Kyler comes back and plays well, which is why I've grabbed him on all my fantasy teams, just to make sure I can hedge my bets a little bit there.
Hedge those bets, baby.
Yeah. By the way, the Jets should have gone out and tried to get Ryan Tannehill before the trade deadline. They didn't. We didn't know Tannehill was available, and maybe it wouldn't even matter in that offense. But nevertheless, he's now benched for Will Levis. B-Mac, I'm curious what you've seen, what your thoughts on sort of Mike Vrabel, who didn't seem enthusiastic about going to Will Levis. Like he's a big Tannehill guy, and how the Titans will fare with this rookie quarterback the rest of the year.
I mean, it's the right thing to do. Unfortunately, Ryan Tannehill got hurt, and I'm from the football world where you never lose your job to injury. But in some cases, you do lose your job because of injury. He got injured. Will Levis jumped in, surprised everyone. For anyone that says they expected Will Levis to do what he did against Atlanta, you're lying. No one expected 400 yards. 4 touchdowns and over 250 yards throwing. No one expected that. He surprised everyone. Even the coaches there on the sideline were surprised. But then also too, against Pittsburgh, they lost the ball game, but he played well. He played well. He surprised me with how well he played on the road against the Steelers defense. So the main reason why this makes sense outside of what I just gave you with how well he's performed in 2 starts is that you're going to cut ties with Ryan Tannehill anyway next year. Yeah. 2024, he's going to be gone. So why wait? It's almost like what we saw last year with Atlanta. They had Marcus Mariota there to start the season, but they played around, didn't insert Desmond Ridder into the lineup into the final 4 ball games. And guess what? The lack of experience clearly hindered his growth in this season. So if you're telling me Marcus Mariota was supposed to be with the Atlanta Falcons for 2 seasons, you're lying. No, 2022 was going to be his only run with that franchise, and 2023 was going to be somebody else, specifically speaking, Desmond Ridder. It's the same situation, especially when we look at the contract for Ryan Tannehill. This is the last year of his deal. You're not going to re-up him, especially when you look at the quarterback market for starting quarterbacks. So now, if he stayed healthy and you were winning ball games, you ride with Ryan Tannehill. You were losing ball games. He got injured. In comes the young fella, provided a sense of juice, energy, and he looks pretty good. There's no reason to go back to Ryan Tannehill, especially if he's going to be gone in 2024.
Yeah, B-Mac, when you look at this ultimately was the right move. And, we also had a saying, I'm not sure if Mike Tomlin had this one, but we had one in the locker room, right? You say you can't lose your job to injury. But what do they say, B-Mac? Your best ability is what? Availability. If you're not available, if you're not available and somebody takes advantage of that opportunity, that's the life we live in. And that's exactly what Will Levis did. And Brinson, you brought up an interesting, point when it came to Vrabel, right? Because there's rumors that, like you said, Tannehill is his guy. And then even if you see his remarks after that Atlanta win, he never really gave any kudos to Will Levis for how he played, right? Now, again, this could be coaching, not wanting the rookie to have a big head. Yeah, but to your point, B-Mac, he played really well versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think one aspect of the game that we hadn't seen from the Tennessee Titans was them push the ball down the field. Well, with Will Levis' arm, they can do that, right? They can run play action pass and take some of those deep shots down the field. We saw DeAndre Hopkins. Everybody thought he was done, right? They thought he was washed. Yeah. 3 touchdowns versus the Falcons. Had a couple big catches last week versus Steelers. But what I really love about Will Levis, and I saw this in college, I was actually one of those people that was a Levis fan. I had him as my number 3 quarterback in that draft. I felt like if you go back to the 21 tape, when he was with Liam Cohen, who ran an NFL-style offense, he looked really good. Liam Cohen leaves. The offensive line, most of it goes to the draft. He loses his running back to the NFL. Of course you're going to struggle, right? He was getting beat up and blistered. But what I did love, fellas, was that he was tough, right? Never invaded the pocket unless he had to. I mean, B-Mac, this dude took 36 sacks in 11 games his last year. So toughness is not a question mark. We saw it in the Pittsburgh game. How many times was he under duress and he never, we always see rookie quarterbacks kind of drift back in the pocket, right? He never did that. He stepped up in the pocket, stared down the rush, and with his arm talent, sometimes he doesn't have to step in the throws because he can still put it on the line with that arm strength. That's what I saw from Will Levis. This was the only decision, right? He gives them the best chance to win. He makes them a more explosive offense as far as forcing the ball down the field. So this was the right decision by the Tennessee Titans. And to your point, B-Mac, Tannehill's gone after this year. Yep. Rand Carthon came in, new GM. He was not going to be a part of the future. You need to see what you got in Will Levis because again, this is another good quarterback draft class. If Will Levis doesn't have it, then you have some options. But now it seems like if Will Levis continues to play like this, you may have found your quarterback of the future, and then you found him in the 2nd round. So you don't even have to pay him 1st round money.
Yeah, and like if they're 4-4, if Levis stinks to join up and they lose, like you get like he's either going to get you into playoff contention and you find out that he's your guy, or he's going to take you, it's like shoot you way out of playoff contention and you can go get someone else in the draft. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, second half of the season NFL predictions.
Yes, sir.
Next.
Two legends, one last curtain call. Can Rapinoe lead the reign to a long-awaited title? Or will Ali Krieger and Gotham pull off a true Cinderella story? It's one final chance to earn some hardware. The NWSL Championship on CBS and streaming live on Paramount+.
Welcome back to the Pick Six podcast. First half of the 2023 season is behind us. I don't know about you guys. I'm curious if, maybe this is like I don't know if it bothers you guys as ex-players, but like it drives me nuts that we have a 17-game schedule and there's no like actual half. You know what I mean? Like it's like, all right, everybody's played at least 8 games, so we're kind of halfway there. I like the quarter. I like the 4 games as a quarter season poll. You know, that midseason. Like it drives me nuts, and I'm not even like an anal retentive person at all. I don't know why that drives me so crazy. Like I almost just rather go to 18.
B-Mac can speak to this. We always talked about the season in quarters, right? First quarter, second quarter, third, fourth quarter. But now it's weird, right, Brinson, because you have like that extra game. So is the second quarter like after 9 games, or is it after 8 games, or is that in the third quarter? You kind of go back and forth. I'm sure coaches still use that language, right? Because they went to 17 games, I think a year after I retired. So I wouldn't know what coaches are doing now. But we always broke it down. You know, we got to beat this record after the first quarter, this record after the second quarter. All right, guys, they're the best teams in the third quarter. That's where they really show themselves. You want to be playing your best football heading into the last quarter. But now with that odd game, it's like,
I know.
Where do you put it at?
Like, are you supposed to start peaking right now? Are you supposed to wait a week? Like, how does it drives me crazy. So we're doing some second half predictions on the website as well. Let's go through and talk about who and readjust. You know, like I think you can stick to your priors if you feel like you had a good call, but feel free to readjust to anything. So let's look at the playoffs right now. A team who is in playoff contention right now, and here are the teams in the AFC: Kansas City, Baltimore, Jacksonville, Miami, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Cincinnati, the entire AFC North. And then Philly, Detroit, San Francisco, New Orleans, Seattle, Dallas, and Minnesota. Let's give me a team, Deuce, that you believe is in the hunt or is in the playoffs right now that won't make it. They won't end up making the postseason.
That's in it right now.
Yeah, or and you can like Buffalo at 5-4 would be fine too.
I was going to say because that's my surprise team. I don't think Buffalo Bills make it. And
you said that preseason.
Yeah, I said it. Thank you, Will. So somebody had it on record. I said it. I was like, I don't think the Bills are going to make the playoffs this year. And obviously, this was before Aaron Rodgers went down. So, but still, I think they're still going to be hard pressed to make it because if you look at them, right, what are they? 5-4 right now, right? And I know Harry. I asked Harry to pull the schedule. Harry, can you put that schedule up for me just so the people can see it? Look at this gauntlet coming down the stretch. Now, I know a lot of people will laugh at me when I say the New York Jets, but I also said that before the Philly game, and the Jets beat the Philly game.
The Jets give Josh Allen trouble too.
Thank you. Okay, there's always one team that gives is a thorn in the side for a team, and that's the Jets when it comes to Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, right? So that's going to be a big competitive game. But even if you take that game out, look at the next 3 games, right? At the Philadelphia Eagles, then they get a bye, then they play at Kansas City. We saw Dallas just travel to Philly and go blow to blow with them, right? And then they finish at Miami. So say they lose 3 of those games, that puts them at 8 losses on the season. So you talk about Miami, you got the Jets, Philly, Kansas City, Dallas. That's 5 games. If they would lose 4 of them, that's 8. That gives them 8 losses, right? If they lose all 5, it gives them 9 losses. So I think it's going to be hard pressed for the Buffalo Bills to make the playoffs this year. And I said this in the beginning of the year, and Will attested to it. It's just because B-Mac, we know this. Usually a team has a 3 to 4 year window. Now, again, we know Joe Burrow came out and said, as long as I'm here, the window is always available, right? And people like to put Josh Allen in that category. But again, you cannot lead the league in picks and be in that category. And that's what he's doing again this year. Matter of fact, he's led the league in interceptions since he came into the NFL, right? So, a pivotal interception again last week versus Cincinnati Bengals. Like, you cannot turn the ball over. I don't care how many touchdowns you throw. And that's everybody's rebuttal. Well, he leads the league in touchdowns when you add his rushing touchdowns. It doesn't matter if you turn the football over. You're still giving that team an opportunity to win. So I thought them adding, Floyd right before the season with Von Miller's injury maybe gave them one last hurrah. But we've seen it. They've been up and down. The offense has been up and down. Too many
tons of injuries on defense too.
Oh, they've been shattered on defense. I think Buffalo will be a team that doesn't make the playoffs this year.
By the way, New York. I was going to say the New York Times has a playoff predictor with the odds. I mean, I think we do too, but this was just constantly updating, and I could find it faster than I could find the sports line ones in my email inbox. But 47% chance to make the postseason, 25% chance to win the division. With the Dolphins, a whopping 68% chance to win the division, and that's based on performance and schedule and all that. BMAC. There's another team I see that's currently in the postseason.
Yep.
Less than 50% chance according to these metrics. But I won't suggest them for you. I'll let you pick whatever team you think won't make the playoff.
The team that's currently in the playoffs that won't make the playoffs is the Cleveland Browns.
There you go.
Cleveland Browns. And the reason why I'm going to Cleveland Browns is because just their division. Because
you don't want to say the Pittsburgh Steelers.
No. I'm going to give my reason why I think Pittsburgh sneak in. I'm going to give my reason to why I think Pittsburgh sneaks in. But the reason why I feel like the Cleveland Browns will make it, they're currently 1-2 in the AFC North. They're 5-3. They have already lost to Pittsburgh. They lost to Baltimore. They play Baltimore this Sunday. This is a very, very important ball game, especially if you're trying to keep your playoff hopes alive. You cannot be 1-3 with 2 remaining division games left and still hoping to get into the playoffs. And one of those teams that you have left, you already lost to as well. Then when you factor in the good things about the Cleveland Browns is solely about the defense. Their defense has been phenomenal. But at some point in time, their offense, they will have to come to the party. And we saw some things last week against the Arizona Cardinals in the second half from Deshaun Watson, but heck, they played against Arizona. If you look at that ball game in the first half, if it wasn't for their defense, that game was extremely close in the first half against Clayton Tune and the Arizona Cardinals. So we haven't really seen a lot from Cleveland's offense. Defensively have been carrying them, and of course, they had a lapse against the Colts, and 2 bad calls bailed them out. And winning that ball game, that would have been another loss as well. So I factor in with them already kind of being behind the ball in the division with 3 games left in your division. You still got to play Baltimore, which is this Sunday, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Both teams, great defensive play. They play real well. And they caught Cincinnati early in the year, which is a plus because Cincinnati that they were going to play in a few weeks is not the same Cincinnati they saw early in the year. So I'll take
against them boys though.
They always struggle, and also too they always split. So history tells us with them already beating Cincinnati, Cincinnati's probably going to beat them.
Yeah. So they're at Baltimore, and then get the Steelers at home the week after that. I mean, this is basically these 2 weeks. Yeah. So like this playoff predictor has the Browns at 65% chance to make the playoffs. If they lose to the Ravens, it's down to 54, and lose to the Steelers down to 35, I believe. So it's like these 2 weeks, like you got to get like Deshaun Watson, you're making $230 million, fully guaranteed. You play when you want, you sit when you want, you do whatever the hell you want. Apparently, good for you, player empowerment and all that. But I mean, like you better play well these next 2 weeks because it's going to get ugly in Cleveland if they lose these 2 divisional games, as BMAC points out, to be 1-4 in the division and have a big time uphill battle. I was going to go Cleveland too, but I think Pittsburgh. I mean,
it's going to come down to Pittsburgh and Cleveland probably for a 6 or 7.
Like that game in 2 weeks versus those 2 teams, like might be like a de facto play.
So Sunday's going to tell us a lot with Cleveland, right? But if they lose,
is it though? Baltimore's been thrashing everybody at home.
But what I'm saying is, in regards to, I'm talking about with the playoff picture, picture. So if they lose to Baltimore Sunday, they cannot lose to Pittsburgh the following week.
For sure.
So that's what I'm saying. This game Sunday is going to tell us a lot in regards to their playoff hopes against Baltimore. But if they lose, like Will said, if they win, the percentages increase. If they lose, it decreases. So this is a big game for Cleveland.
Massive game.
Yeah.
Bill, by the way, if the Bills lose to the Broncos this week, I mean, you wouldn't think it's likely, but you never know.
That's in Buffalo.
We dropped down to it's in Buffalo, if they let's say they beat the Broncos and lose to the Jets, lose to the Jets, they would be down to 26% chance to make the playoffs.
Let's go.
They're not losing to Denver.
I will take. Like I said, I thought the Steelers. All right, let's flip this on its head and give me a team that's that's not currently in the playoffs that you think will make the playoffs, Deuce?
This one might surprise everybody, but it really shouldn't. I mean, especially if you look at the remaining schedule, the Houston Texans, right? And we talked about this in the beginning of the year. I told everybody that Houston was going to be a hard out this year, and everybody laughed at me. I said, just knowing DeMeco Ryans and the type of guy he is, the culture he was going to bring, and he got 2 culture-changing pieces in the draft with C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson at the edge position. I told everybody they are going to fight tooth and nail every single week. And B-Mac, the thing is, they're built right in the trenches, right? That offensive line coming into a C.J. Stroud was in the best scenario. And I stated this when we talked about the draft. I said, as far as protection, C.J. Stroud's going to have the best line out of all these draft picks right now. In the beginning of the year, he was still playing with backups because Tunsil was hurt, Howard was hurt, and he was still cooking guys. And those backups, I think it was a really good job of them getting George Fant when he was out there on the street, bringing him in. He's played really well for them as well. But now that the offensive line is whole, we saw what he did this last Sunday, right? 44 seconds, B-Mac. Nina scored a win, marched his team down the field, and got a win, a big win. And if you look at the Houston Texans schedule, right, the 5 of the last 8 games, B-Mac and Will, are at home. You know what those 3 road games are? The Jets, Colts, and Titans. So if you look at their schedule, they've proven at home they can beat everybody. I mean, they went to Duval County and smacked up Trevor Lawrence and them, so they can win on the road as well. But they've really played well at home. And for them to be comfortable 5 out of the last 8 at home, right, and those 3 road games being Jets, Colts, and Titans. Now, they do have a gauntlet this week in the Bengals, but if they can get over that, even if they don't win that game, 5 of the last 8 at home, right, the 3 road games, Jets, Colts, and Titans, I think the Houston Texans could be a sneaky team. I don't think anybody before the season said we might get 2 teams from the AFC South in the playoffs. It could happen now.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. I'm going to go a different direction. I'm going to go with another AFC team, go out west of the Chargers. And the reason why I'm going with the Chargers is because the defense is starting to play some surprisingly pretty good football.
No, they
play. Hold on. I was going to say the opponent probably played a big part in the dominant performances that we saw from the Chargers, the Jets, and then the week before that, the Chicago Bears. But what does that do, Leger? It provides confidence.
Confidence, it does.
Yes, and it can kind of jumpstart a consistency in performances. So I'm relying on that. Then also to look at their schedule. You talked about the Houston Texans schedule. The next 6 ball games. You got Detroit, Green Bay, Baltimore, New England, Denver, Raiders. They will probably be the favorite in every ball game in the next 6 games, except Baltimore and Detroit.
Yeah.
So that is a plus for them. And then they finish the season out against Buffalo, Denver, and Kansas City. By that time, we don't know what Buffalo Bills team they'll be getting, right? You got the Broncos, who probably much will have everything shipped to Cabo because their season is pretty much over. And then via Kansas City, if Kansas City got everything pretty much locked and loaded,
Well, and if you beat Baltimore, you actually help the Chiefs potentially sit guys in Week 18. Because that's the main, you know what I mean? So there's sort of a cascading effect there where they beat the Ravens, and all of a sudden the Ravens are behind the Chiefs in the standings, and they could end up sitting everybody in Week 18.
Exactly. Wow. So when you factor that into the equation with their schedule and how favorite how much they probably would be a favorite in those ball games, especially with the Kansas City situation, and defensively they can if Bosa and Matt can do what they've done in the last 2 weeks, just a piece of it. I think they can make things interesting. And oh, by the way, they always split with Kansas City anyway. They always play them extremely tough. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think the Chargers. This year. I think Chargers. If Brandon Staley just don't pick up the PlayStation 5 controller and just continue to coach how you've been coaching the last few weeks, they might make a run.
By the way, I forgot to mention. I believe that the games this weekend are on the Sunday, November 12th, right?
Mm-hmm.
Call of Duty, the new Call of Duty comes out on Friday.
No, don't do that. Don't do
Lord, Kyler Murray ain't gonna be ready to play on Sunday.
Kyler's like, I don't know, Coach. Maybe not this week. How about next week, Coach?
Play, man.
Don't do Kyler like that. He ain't bothering nobody.
I know. He's be bothering me if he plays well. I'll take somebody. I think somebody in the NFC South can jump up and steal it from the Saints. Both Tampa Bay 3-5, Atlanta 4-5, Saints 5-4. Saints haven't looked great. They looked a little bit better. Derek Carr playing okay, but I mean, they got like a plus point difference. I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta stole that division or even Tampa Bay. But all right, next coach fired. We've already gotten one somehow. Early in the season, to already have one, especially a guy with 4 years left on his contract. But Josh McDaniels gone. Dudes, who do you think is the next coach fired if we get one in the season?
Yeah, I always hate talking about coaches being fired because it'd be like, we've been in those rooms. We always call it, Black Friday when it happens. But we saw McDaniels get fired in the middle of the season, so it wasn't Black Friday for him. It was Black Tuesday for him.
It's usually it's usually Black Monday
and Black Monday and not Friday. I said
it's fine. I mean, we got football Black Friday this year for the first time.
Exactly. That's why I mixed that up.
Black Monday is like, and like this is not like it's the weirdest thing about this job because like Black Monday is like one of the big like busiest days of the year if you do what we do. Like we do emergency podcast every time somebody's fired. It's like emergency podcast every time somebody's hired. You got to write like it's one of the craziest days, and it's so weird because it's like people are losing their jobs. It's going to happen.
Jobs.
Yeah, it's a weird business.
So again, don't like really discussing people prematurely losing their jobs. But if I had to pick somebody, it's Ron Rivera, and I think the writing has been on the wall already, right? Interesting that Magic Irvin Johnson a few weeks ago when they got smacked up by Chicago on Thursday night. I know Harry has that tweet for us. Him coming out on social media talking about how the team wasn't prepared. They didn't compete. You see it right there. Tonight the Commanders with no intensity or fire. We didn't compete in the first half and got down 27-3 heading into halftime. It was too big of a hole to climb out of. That is why we ended up losing 40-20, right? So, and then you kind of see what they did, B-Mac, right? They traded away their best two pass rushers, right? Montez Sweat and then Chase Young. They traded them away to the 49ers, which should have been illegal for them to do. So the writing's kind of on the wall. Now, Commanders had a big win versus the Patriots this last week. And if you're Ron Rivera, you kind of see the writing on the wall, right? New ownership coming in. They didn't hire you. Even if he makes the playoffs, I could see a scenario of them technically moving on, which it's hard to do. It's hard to fire a coach if they make the playoffs. But right now in that NFC East, you would have to say, obviously the Giants are what the Giants are, right? But you would have to say the Commanders are entrenched as that third team. I think the Cowboys going toe-to-toe with the Eagles let you know how good of a team they can be, right? The Eagles are the number one team in the NFL right now, record-wise. Some people will still say the Ravens are the best team in the NFL. But I think the writing's on the wall. Right. New ownership coming in, Magic Johnson tweeting things like that. You're starting to, offload some of your best pieces, kind of lets you know, B-Mac, you're heading for a rebuild. Right. So I would say, again, I don't like saying, anybody's about to get fired, but inevitable, Ali, it looks like Ron Rivera could potentially be the next coach that's going to get fired.
Yeah, legit. I think that's the best pick based on everything you mentioned. All cool facts. I'll go a different direction just for sake of argument. I'll go Arthur Smith.
Ooh.
I'll go Arthur Smith. And the reason why is that so far it's been a disappointing year. Through 9 games, he's below 500, 4-5. His first 2 seasons, he's 14-20. And it's safe to say he did a better coaching job last year with less talent than what he's currently doing right now with more talent. And then what we factor in and witnessed last week, that loss to Minnesota hurt. But it hurts more when you lost to a quarterback that currently lives in a hotel. He literally lost to a quarterback who lives in a hotel right now. He literally just got to town the same week. Joshua Dobbs has not been in Minnesota long enough to get a Juicy Lucy burger, but he got a victory for the organization before getting a Juicy Lucy
Groundhouse Killer burger.
Juicy Lucy burgers are good.
How is that possible, Arthur? You cannot lose to a guy who just got to town. He didn't even know the plays. Don't even know his teammates' name. Yep. And you lost. And then also, too, when you factor in just how wide open the NFC South is. In the beginning of the season, when everything was finally said and done, when the rosters were set, I think you can make a legit argument that Atlanta Falcons had the most talented team in their division. From top to bottom.
Yeah, Saints probably right there. Yep.
Yeah, you can make it's a legit argument. Like they can either be 1 or 2 or 1A or 1B. It doesn't matter, right? But we're not seeing that develop on the football field. He's mismanaged the quarterback situation. He's mismanaged the entire offense. Earlier, we thought we was going to see Bijan Robinson do what Bijan Robinson do what he can do. Now he's been missing in the lineup. It's like, what are we doing? Like, and he got the job because he was an offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. It looks like he's never called plays before. They were in the red zone one time last Sunday against the Vikings on the 3-yard line. 3 plays later, they lost 15 yards.
Oh, yeah. Yep. That was weird. It's like, how are you kicking a field goal here? Like, you're on the 3.
And the first 2 plays were passes.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? So if I'll say this, and I like I said, I just wanted to throw something out there for sake of argument, a different option. But if they don't make the playoffs this year, and if they finish below 500, the rest of the schedule goes as this. Arizona, now get this, they're underdog in this ball game. Vegas has the Falcons an underdog. Yes, against Arizona.
Let you know how
I said that on Monday that it would flip. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So they're underdog.
That's
to
bad.
Kyler Murray making his first. That's not good at all. So they got Arizona, New Orleans, the Jets, Tampa, at Carolina, Indy, Chicago, and the Saints. And the Saints in the next, the next 8 games. If they're not above 500 in the next 8 games and they miss the playoffs, Leger, he might be on the outside looking in. 3 years is now what they're kind of giving coaches now. That you got a 3-year window.
The interesting thing is, being like, I don't know if you remember, we had this discussion, I think in the offseason, right? I think it was me, you, and Tommy, and we were discussing guys that could have a bounce back breakout year, right? And do you remember who your pick was?
Bounce back, was it Kyle Pitts?
Thank you. Do you remember what I said when we had that conversation?
I can't remember exactly what you said, but he ain't bouncing back.
Okay, I was
right
saying
now.
I think Kyle Pitts won't have a bounce back season because of the offensive coordinator / head coach Arthur Smith. I was like, this guy is a unicorn, but for some reason he just has not been able to use him properly, right? Yeah. And they brought in Jonnu Smith, which when he was at the Tennessee Titans, a lot of 12 personnel, 1 back, 2 tight end sets, and it seems like lately Jonnu Smith is the number 1 tight end on the team. He's the one getting all the target share, which, again, Kyle Pitts is a unicorn. How do you not know how to use a unicorn?
He's mismanaging the offense. He has a few Ferraris, but he don't want to put them on the interstate.
He got him in the garage, sitting in the garage chilling.
Yeah, or either just ride through the neighborhood. Like, that doesn't do anything when you got a Ferrari. Like, you put it on the interstate and you go. But like I said, you look at the next 8 games, man, if they finish below 500, most importantly, if they miss the playoffs with how bad the NFC South is, if you miss the playoffs, 3-year window.
Yeah. If Minnesota with Josh Dobbs goes to the playoffs and you lost to Josh Dobbs like that and you don't go, it's gonna be some hot butts hanging around. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, a little Thursday night football. There's a scorcher between the Bears and the Panthers. We'll talk about it next.
He led them to their 5th national championship. And now Jay Wright sits down with UConn men's basketball head coach. It's Home Court, Dan Hurley on CBS Sports Network.
All right, welcome back. Pick Six Podcast, Thursday night football. The Bears and the Panthers. I mean, look, it's not going to be pretty. I'm not going to sit here and lie and tell you that this is going to be.
You don't think so?
I think it could be better than people expect, maybe. But regardless of whether Justin Fields is out there or not, like, this game means a lot for the draft. Like, if you're the Panthers, you better be motivated to get a win and push your pick further down so you're not giving the Bears, like, the number 1 pick. Frankly, the Bears want to win so they can push the Panthers pick up and end up with a really good pick. So, Dudes, I'm curious with what do you see? How do you see this playing out?
Well, there's so much to dive into. And, Will, again, people will say this is going to be an ugly game because these are 2 of the worst teams in the NFL. I got a quick question for you guys. Justin Fields, right? We don't know with the thumb, will he be able to go or not? But even if he's 75%, would you still play Tyson Bagent for how he's played? Now, again, he can't turn the ball over. 3 picks. And if you look at those 3 picks, right, anytime he throws within rhythm, B-Mac and Will, he's looked really good. It's when he's a little bit behind and late, that's when he gets in trouble. All 3 of those picks in that Saints game last week, one was cover 2. Paulson Adebo did a really good job as a cloud cover corner, right? If you look at it, Cole Kmet runs like a stop route. He's from outside in, and he makes a great play on the ball. That's a little bit of throwing late and also Paulson Adebo making a play. Paulson Adebo's last pick was because he was late on a slant route to Darnell Mooney and just threw it a little bit behind him, right? And the other pick, same thing, going to Darnell Mooney. He was a little bit behind him. But in that game, the man ran for 70 yards. He was efficient with the football. I mean, Darnell Mooney hadn't been heard from all season long, and he led them in receiving yards last week. So I want to, before I dive into the game and the breakdown, I would just want to hear you guys' perspective. If Justin Fields isn't 100%, or say he's like 80%, do you still ride out with Tyson Bagent on a short week, or do you play Justin Fields?
I want Fields healthy if I'm putting him out there.
Yeah,
I think he
70% out. I don't know. Now it depends on, because this is throwing. It was his throwing thumb. That's the thing. Like if he feels uncomfortable throwing the football, you ride with Bagent for one more week. And I think if this game was played on Sunday, I think Justin would have played. But because it's a short week, you don't get a chance to really rest as much as you like to, and they got to put him out there. So I would go with Bagent.
Well, this is another thing too. Go ahead, Will. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think that like it's weird because you're getting close to the point where like, do the Bears know what they want to do with Justin Fields long term? I don't think they do.
Why I wanted to ask it. That's why.
So like, you want to get him out. You want to get him out there, but you also, I think, you want to make sure that he's healthy enough to show what he can do when he's healthy, right? I mean, so it's
Exactly.
they're getting in this weird spot where it's going to be tough to decide.
I think they already know what they want to do with him.
But that's my thing. So my thing is, do you risk him going out there getting hurt if you already know that you're probably going to trade him?
Well, you don't play him if he's not healthy enough to go. But if he was healthy enough to go, they're playing him. Because if they already know what they're going to do with him, the only thing that stops that from happening is if he has a season-ending injury and he won't be ready to go next season, next year, the beginning of next year. It will hurt his trade value. But if he finishes the season
he's officially listed as doubtful for Thursday night's game. So
he's not playing.
He's not playing.
Yeah, he's not playing. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so I'll tell you what. Let's get game picks. Brian Burns probably out with a concussion. It seems like. Where do you go with this one, Deuce? How do you see it playing out?
What's the line right now? Is it still 3.5?
3.5, I believe. Right.
So I go back and forth. You look at the Panthers; they're 1-6-1 against the spread this year, and if you look at all their games, I believe the under is hit. 3. It's an even 3, so it went down.
Even 3 and 38.5. Yeah.
Yeah. And even if you look at the Panthers, the unders hit more, but the Chicago over is hit more, which is, people wouldn't think that, right? Because like the Bears, you don't think offense, but Bagent has actually had them playing pretty well on offense the last couple of weeks. So
you got to protect the ball.
He's just got to protect the ball. That's what it comes down to. And rightfully so, it comes down to that for Bryce Young as well, right? Both of his picks were pick sixes last week, and he had one at the end of the game, but that's when he was trying to throw the ball down the field and get some yardage and get them in contention. But if you look at it, the first pick, he was late on the outside to Chuba Hubbard coming out of the backfield. Kenny Moore steps in front of it, gets picked off. On a screenplay, B-Mac, you know this, when you're getting a little pressure, you got to be able to float the ball up in the air just to give a running back an opportunity. He kind of gunned it, and and it went over Miles Sanders' head, and Kenny Moore picked it off and went to the house there. So you got to talk about 2 rookie quarterbacks that have looked like rookies the last few weeks. This could be an ugly game. I would lean towards the under, but I like Chicago to cover the 3 just because you talked about it, Will, right? Brian Burns, their best defensive player, is not playing in this game, which is a big loss. C.J. Henderson probably won't come back either. Their starting quarterback, opposite of Dante Jackson. So I'm leaning towards Chicago in the run game. Now, if you look at it, the Panthers have played a lot better the last 2 weeks against the run, but I think for the season, they're giving up over 130 a game. Right. And if you look at the Chicago Bears, we know the Panthers want to run the ball. They're one of the best defenses in football. I know a lot of people aren't talking about it against the run. They give up less than 80 yards a game against the run and 3.3 yards per carry. So it's going to be on Bryce Young. And in that situation, when you traded for Montez Sweat, this is his second week in this defense. I think Chicago gets it done at home. I think Kyler Gordon, it will be an X factor in this game in that slot going against Adam Thielen. Give me Chicago minus the 3.
Before I give my pick, I remember last spring, early March, I tweeted out something, and I said the Chicago Bears have already won the offseason. Carolina will probably struggle this year, so that 2024 first-round pick might be a top 3 selection.
Ooh,
keep pounding. Jumped on me. They jumped on me bad. A
lot of people said they could win the division this year. Before the season,
we've never had a top 3 pick, Cam went 1, but we've always.
Since 2011, we haven't had it.
They kind of gave me all the stats and everything. I just say, hey man, I just feel like you guys not gonna be good, and so I'm not gonna be petty and go ahead and just jump on that just yet. I'm gonna just go ahead and be patient. But my pick, I love the under and I love Chicago. right? Brian Burns, who they should have traded 2 years ago, they had opportunity to get some nice draft picks in return. They decided to keep him. You don't have anything to show for it because he's probably going to go elsewhere. You're going to have to try to franchise him, but he's not going to be happy. They just don't have talent. They can't protect the quarterback, even though it's not like the Bears they have a dominant pass rushing defense. But against Carolina, everyone rushes the passers well.
Yes,
That's just it's been the thing. And I believe more in the offense for Chicago, even with Tyson Bagent, than I do with the Carolina Panthers offense. So it's gonna be an ugly game, but I take Chicago as well. And
I'm gonna take the Bears too.
They got to win this ball game. It's like a game 7 because you give them a loss knowing you're already getting their first pick, their first rounder. Like
double down.
Yeah, you got to. This is the Super Bowl for Chicago.
That's right. I got the Bears too. I think Panthers stink. Panthers just aren't very good. Bad football team. They don't have any weapons. Can't challenge you downfield. Bears can creep up. Matty Bufalo's defense with those off-ball linebackers be able to stuff, really like beat up on the stuff up close to the line of scrimmage, stop the run, and you force Bryce Young to win the game, and that's going to end up with you winning the game. So
I don't know if there's another organization. I don't know if there's another organization in the National Football League that has a darker future than Carolina. I don't know.
That's saying a lot
because they probably will have the number 1, the number 2, and you can't even use it. This is the same organization that gave Matt Rule $60 million. Like
they have a David Tepper problem.
I got a quick question. I know we were talking about coaches on the hot seat. Just say in a weird world, Carolina wins this game. Is Eberflus out of there? I
don't think he's out of there, but he's definitely his seat's getting hot. I think Ryan Poles will be. I would think they will question whether or not they want to let Matt Eberflus develop a quarterback at the top of this draft
next year.
Yeah,
I don't think Chicago will make
it through the end of the season.
I think he'll still make it to the end of the season. Yeah. In fact, they may want him around so they keep losing games. All right, that'll do it for us.
About that.
Awesome show. Great breakdown from Dooz and BMAC. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button. If you are listening in pod form, hit subscribe, give us a 5-star review, and make sure to check out All Things Covered with BMAC and Pat P. Great stuff over there. Of course, you can catch Dooz on CBS Sports HQ and Spotlight, all kinds of stuff. We'll be back tomorrow with our pick show, and then of course Sunday with the Super Friends recap. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. See you guys later.
Thank you.